Welcome back to the Real Estate Sitdown presented by Double B Homes and the Pemberton Home Team. This is episode 24. I am Blair Berg. This is Jaden Millette. How are you doing, Jaden?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Alrighty. So, as always, let's start off at the top. At the time of recording, today is Wednesday, November the 1st, 2023. The interest rate for a 30-year conventional loan is 7.88. So, no real change there.
Nope.
We've been hovering around the 7.7 up 7.7 to 7.9 for the last couple of weeks. It touched 8 a little bit a couple of weeks ago. Again, we'll keep you updated if there is changes there. So it's been a month since we gave our last update, so I wanted to give a market update. For here in Minnesota, our new listings for September were 5,554, which is down 6.8% compared to last year.
Yep.
Closed sales, again, we had 4,035 last month, which is down 17.6%. Median sales price of $375,000, that's up 2.7%. Average sales price, that is $441,000, and that's up 3.2%. And that kind of just falls in line too. You can see there price per square foot, all those things too. Inventory of homes for sale, we are down 9.5%.
Brutal.
Yeah. So, and I do think actually the video we're going to go over today in the I Saw It Online segment it's a little bit longer, but I do think is like a perfect encapsulation, kind of an explanation for what is going on in the market. And it's what I've been telling people, and I saw it, and I thought it was a great summary. So I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
Do you think we're going to see a flood of home inventory, or do you think the market's going to remain tight for an extended period of time?
I have talked for quite a while about how the Federal Reserve has put a poison pill into the real estate market, and that poison pill is the low-rate mortgages. 25% of the people in the country have a mortgage at or below 3%. 65% of the people in the country have a mortgage at or below 4%. 42% of all the homes in the country have no mortgage at all. So it is very hard to see that any of these people will become distressed. And if you want to have a real estate crash and you want to have increasing inventory, you must have distressed sellers or homeowners. And it is just very unlikely that there is going to be any major amount of distress. When you look at the delinquency rates on mortgages, whether they're 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days behind or in the foreclosure process, they are extremely low. In fact, they're at some of the lowest points in history right now. Because of these low rates, people do not want to let go of those mortgages. They do not want to sell their homes. Most of those mortgages have about 28 years left on them. So there is likely to be a housing shortage for quite a while to come. A normal housing market, if you look at Alto's stats, which I use more than National Association of Realtors stats because they calculate it differently, but a normal housing market has somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.2 million homes for sale. Right now, we only have 460,000 homes for sale. During the worst, most savagely short-supplied era of the COVID market, we had about 240,000 homes for sale at any given time. So inventory has increased with the higher interest rates, and demand has decreased, but still people are just reluctant to put their homes up for sale. There's no incentive. Why would they give up the cheap mortgage to go and take an expensive mortgage, right? There's just no incentive for them.
So I've been telling people for months is that there is low inventory right now because people do not want to sell because most homes either have that 3% mortgage or they don't have a mortgage at all. And the ones that have the 3% mortgage, it's only been paid down for about 2 years.
Yep.
So with what seemed like a great deal when those low mortgages were happening is now killing the real estate market because people would rather stay put in a small home instead of moving up as their family gets bigger. Right. So really the only solution is that interest rates have to come back down.
Yep.
Because it wouldn't make sense for someone with a 2.5% mortgage to sell and buy something else with an 8% mortgage, especially most times when you're selling to move into something bigger. So it's going to be a higher price at a higher mortgage.
Right.
So I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I agree with you, especially for equity purposes too. Like, it just doesn't make sense to go from that 2, 3, 4% up to, even when you get a rate buy down, I mean, 6, 7, 8%. There's a lot of pros and cons. I mean, obviously, no matter what. And I do find some of what he said a little harsh, because I do think there is always that opportunity that if you need to sell, there is still equity that you're going to be able to build after having to sell after that 2%, 3% interest rate.
Yeah.
Simply because, exactly what he said, the market is in such a state that with the shortage, you're also probably going to be able to get some type of benefit. And I know he said there's no incentive. I agree to a certain extent, but I think there is some incentive as far as purchase prices, as far as seller concessions, as far as rate buy downs. I think there's temporary ways that if you have to move and you want to get into a better situation, there are smart ways to do it. You definitely just have to understand the smartest way to do it.
Yeah, and I think that's what we talk about all the time is you have to, now is I think more important than ever that you partner with an agent that knows what they're doing, because you have to get creative to find the wins. And like you said too, is as a seller, there are still, I agree, there are incentives because we're still in a seller's market technically.
For sure.
The demand is still there and inventory is so low, as we talked about earlier in the state of the market. Just because, again, people are reluctant to list because they don't want to give up that 3% interest rate. So there's still going to be demand because inventory is so low.
Right.
So yeah, and that's the interesting thing about real estate is it's not like a piece of art where you can hang on to it and then you've made your money, now it's time to sell.
Yeah.
For the average person, real estate is your home. It's where you live. So if you have a job that is making you move states, you can't be like, oh, I have a 3% interest rate.
Right.
I can't move.
Right.
It's like you have to move.
There's no
So,
options.
Again, like you said, there are incentives for sellers, I believe, as well, just because you're still getting a good list price.
Yep.
It's where it hurts people right now is if you're a first-time home buyer.
For sure.
Obviously.
100%.
Just because the people that got lucky and were able to buy a home a couple years ago with that 3% interest rate, well, they're not selling their house anymore. And those would be the homes that the first-time home buyers would be purchasing. So, again, if you're that first-time home buyer that's concerned about it, as Jaden said, there are rate buy-downs. There are low down payment loans right now. And I just don't think that as we work into 2025, not 2024 yet, but 2025, this staying at 8% is not sustainable.
No, it cannot stay there.
Yeah. Something will
proven,
change.
Yeah.
It just has to. Whether that be new government programs, stuff like that, there will be changes where that interest rate will come down, and we should see a little bit of change in purchase price as well.
For sure.
Now we can move on to FAQs. Jaden, tell us why it is so important to shop around for your mortgage and knowing the difference between pre-qualified and pre-approved.
That is a great question. I'm going to keep it relatively short and sweet because there is a lot of stuff behind the scenes that obviously can make it very complicated. I cannot stress this enough. Shop around for your mortgage lenders. If your agent is only giving you one mortgage lender and it's a massive bank or it's a tiny lender, it does not matter. They're all going to have different numbers. They're all going to have different quotes. And that also ties into the part of pre-approval and pre-qualification. There is a lot of stigma right now with the understanding that, oh, I'm going to go sign this purchase agreement with a pre-qualification from Ally Financial, a massive company that, for one, hate to say it, doesn't care about you or your money. And all they're going to do is say, oh, you put these numbers into a quoting simulator. We're going to just give you a pre-approval. And then a week later, your financing falls through because either your numbers were wrong or they were wrong from what you thought. And then you're out the house.
Full disclosure, I bank with Ally, and I'd be willing to beep that out if you want to sponsor the show. Ally Financial. I'll
That's
bleep
fair.
what he just said.
That's fair. That's funny.
I'm joking.
No, I know.
Go ahead.
We probably should. We need that ally.
I say, if you want this
Yeah.
to be the Ally Financial real estate sit down, reach out. I'll bleep that out.
Otherwise, we're coming for you. So better figure it out. Get your quotes figured out and stop screwing over my clients. Know the difference. Get a pre-approval. Do not get a pre-qualification. Talk to someone. When you get a pre-qualification, I'd say 99.9% of the time, all you got on the piece of paper was the name of a mortgage broker. And they work 5 days a week, and they work an 8 to 5 job in an office. And realistically, that is a rare case for an actual mortgage broker that you're going to be able to communicate with. You're going to be able to get your closing date figured out. You're going to be able to get all your finances figured out. It's just unrealistic.
Yeah, no, and to add on to that, again, I'll have a lot of people come to me and they say, hey, I put my income information into, rocketshipmortgage.com and they said that I qualify for this amount. Well, there are different things that go into your actual pre-approval.
Yep.
And pre-qualified just means that based on the information you input with no underwriter interference
Correct.
or actually diving into those numbers, because we all tend to round up and we talk about how much we make. And so until you actually have a loan officer take a look at that and give it to an underwriter, it doesn't really mean anything.
Correct.
Because if you're 1099, there are complications to that. If you make bonus income, there are complications to that. If you make commission on top of your salary, there are complications to that. So being pre-qualified is not being pre-approved. We all get those spam letters in the mail from XYZ credit cards where they're like, "Oh, you're pre-approved for this amount," and they don't even know your financial situation yet. So once you go to apply, that's when you'll actually figure out what you're pre-approved for. So it is. Make sure, and to Jane's point, I always stress, again, you can go with whoever you want. You might have a great relationship with whatever bank you use, but I always say strive for the best customer service, because most banks and lenders can match rates and fees and stuff like that. There's just trade-off. If someone has better fees, they probably have higher rates. If they have better rates, they probably have higher fees. So go with the guy who you know is going to answer the phone 7 days a week and will be willing to work for you after hours when you're actually making offers.
For sure.
So yeah, I always want to deal with a local small guy.
Yes.
So I know he has the workload and he's in touch with the local programs and will be on the schedule that we need.
Yep. Have your agent harass them. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Yeah. And if your agent is not calling them 4 times before you even send something off, then there's something wrong. Yeah. Because there has to be a bunch of information that goes into the purchase agreement, for one, into the offer that you send as a buyer, for it to actually get accepted and for the process to go smoothly as every future homeowner wants it to go. And there has to be stuff set in place for things to work smoothly. Yeah,
and that's another reason, too. I say you should do your own research, too, and take your agent suggestions with a grain of salt. But at the same time, that's one of their preferred lenders because they've worked well with them in the past and they have a track record of success. For sure. So, again, yes, don't just blindly go with someone because someone told you to. But there's probably a reason they're recommending them. They have good open communication, and they've had success with them before. For sure. So that's just to help you. Yep. Not to mention, as a buyer, let's say you go to 6 different lenders, 6 different mortgage companies. I guarantee you, if you want to go with your first mortgage lender, but your 6th mortgage lender is the one you don't want to go with, but they give you a better rate, go back to that first one. I guarantee you'll get the one for the 6th because they're all competing just as much as we are. Blair, I get this question a lot. What should a buyer expect in a final walkthrough? So a final walkthrough is something you usually do. I try to do it the day before closing, so that way if there are issues, you can get them corrected. But a final walkthrough, you do it the day before. You make sure the home is as it was when the offer was made and accepted, except for any changes that you maybe had requested. For sure. So if there were inspection items that you wanted changed or repaired, those should be updated. So this is the time, too, you're making sure that those repairs were made. You're also making sure that the seller's personal property has been taken out of the property. Because obviously if they're bigger items, that's going to end up as a cost for your buyer. Yep. And you can actually delay closings for these reasons if it's not taken care of. A lot of times I'm looking to make solutions, though. Maybe it's items that the buyer would still use. So maybe it's kind of a win. Yep. Maybe if it's something easy, I'll take my truck over, get rid of it myself because I don't want to delay their closing. Right. But if it's a big ticket item, we'll raise the flag, make sure the sellers take care of it. Yep. Make sure the utilities are in working order. Yep. Make sure your water is going to work, your heat's going to work, especially as we enter winter here in Minnesota. All that good stuff. And then the property that was meant to stay there is there. Yep. We're talking, unless it was laid out in the purchase agreement that it was meant to be taken, the fridge should be there, the dryer should be there, the washing machine should be there, the dishwasher, any TV mounts. Here's the thing. If it's fixed to the home, it's supposed to stay. Correct. Yeah. So TV mounts, unless stated in the purchase agreement as being taken, those technically should stay because they're fastened to the wall. Yep. That would include cabinets that are fastened, all of that stuff. So it's good too while you're going through the process and even at the inspection, take pictures of stuff. For sure. That are maybe taken, because I'll have a big one that happens all the time because sellers think that buyers won't notice. They'll take the window treatments. They'll take they'll take curtains, they'll take blinds, and they might even have super nice blinds up. They'll take shitty ones, put those up, and then take the nice ones with them and think that the buyer won't notice. And they should be leaving the ones that were seen when they accepted that offer. Yep. So, yeah, final walkthroughs, make sure you're doing those. And again, I know some people do it, like if you have a later closing in the day, you might go in the morning. I just don't like that to be, if there's a surprise, really, I don't like to be scrambling trying to get that sorted out the day of close. The night before as well. All right. That's another episode of the Real Estate Sit Down. As always, if you have any questions or come across something online that you'd like us to take a look at, send that over. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.